We have discussed everything from Moldovan wine to hidden champions in Belarus and Academy of Science in different kind of countries, which is nice. We had also the idea, where's the colleague, it doesn't matter, to talk more about this transfer of knowledge between science and business. So if that is of interest, I can do a little bit more on that. Is that of interest? Yes. I mean, not for today, but maybe next time or sometimes in January, because I was working on this field on the area from research to the economy and how to get this knowledge and how to work together in several different kind of countries. So I can tell you a little bit more about that maybe in December or in January. Yeah. So now I just want to have a little bit introduction in entrepreneurship, how like the latest state-of-the-art research sees entrepreneurship as a topic. Probably, or very likely, we won't get through, so we have 1 more hour, but we can talk about entrepreneurship as personal attitudes as of a human being and how those are related to being an entrepreneur or not. And then on the second step, maybe about the surroundings, so the institutional context, how that is being related to an entrepreneur. And this migration thing we can then tackle in December. Yeah. So just for now, for the with regard to what you have discussed now, is it feasible to have some small presentations in next time on each of those groups? Yes. So something like 10 minutes. You have exchanged your email addresses among each other. You have your contacts. Something like 10 minutes on each of the countries. So that's what we might start with next time, and then we go on with these topics. And later on, maybe next time we can also work on entrepreneurship. You want to work anyway on entrepreneurship. So now we have the Mittelstand then, except for, of course, small startups are also Mittelstand companies, but it's still slightly different kind of a topic. So then the next time we will work together on startups, on entrepreneurship, and can also then have similar research projects into the different spheres. By the way, how do you coordinate with each other? Do you have a common Facebook group? Everybody has Facebook, or what is the method? Everybody is on Facebook? Huh?
Viber, Facebook, we have some. WhatsApp.
If you have, does anybody have a group for this? Can somebody invite me so then everybody has my contact, and then yes, so you can contact me at any time, and we can kind of also when I have something or some questions come up, we can post that in the group and discuss that. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. As I said, first I will tell a little bit about this psychological approach. So what is actually done in entrepreneurial researches, they go to the famous entrepreneurs, they go to some startup centers, they interview the people, then they make some, build some hypotheses, have some measures, and will try to verify their hypothesis. What kind of guys are those which are being entrepreneurs? Yeah. Second thing will be institutions, so the surrounding of entrepreneurship. I will see if we will get through that still today. So if you read something about entrepreneurship, probably you come across some of those guys, Musk, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, etc., Zuckerberg, of course, or some of those guys down here. So it's slides from Germany. So it's actually interesting because up here we don't have any Germans, but down here we just use these Germans. I guess most of you, all of you know Ford. Okay, it's not everybody German, but Benz, Bosch, Siemens, are Germans. Yeah. So you will read about those guys and observing those guys and many other entrepreneurs. We can build theories about who will be an entrepreneur, what do they do, what are successful entrepreneurs like, etc., etc. So this word entrepreneurship is a French word actually, entrepreneur. Somebody told me, who knows French? You know French. How is this correctly pronounced in French? Entrepreneur. Entrepreneur. So I'm more or less correct, yeah? So can you pronounce it again? Entrepreneur. I learned French. I was 20 times in French, but I'm very bad with pronunciation. But today I'm happy if I can pronounce anything. For the next 1 hour, then, yeah. The one who organizes, manages, and assumes the risk of a business or an enterprise. So mostly it's about businesses and enterprises, but you could also say like there's also institutional entrepreneurship, and many of you guys, you are working or you're kind of leading some NGOs, so that's also kind of entrepreneurship. Yeah, if you are leading an NGO, you also have to take risk, etc., etc. So Schumpeter is actually maybe the most important researcher in innovation research and entrepreneurship. He was an Austrian politician and researcher writing in already in the 20s, 30s about anyway Schumpeter innovation research, great guy, also politician in Austria. And his definition was entrepreneurs are individuals who exploit market opportunities through technical and or organizational innovations. So he's talking about individuals mainly. Yeah, so it's not a firm who is an entrepreneur, but it's an individual. It's market opportunities, where you could say like also the market for NGOs. You could say this market for NGOs as a market. What opportunities are there to change your society, to change your country somehow? So it's also some kind of entrepreneurship, and innovation is very important. So if you do the same like everybody does, that would be not an innovation, but innovation are things. Doesn't have to be technical innovation, can also be organizational innovation. Yeah? So for example, if somebody some 25 years ago has as a first person the idea to sell books through the internet, although all the technical stuff was there, it's still an innovation. It's an organizational innovation. Yeah? Or if somebody has as a first person ever had the idea to provide lectures through the internet and just talking to the camera instead of to students, that was also an organizational innovation. And as I said, it's certainly very good that everybody who is in remote areas can profit from that. But I'm very happy that the Auswärtige Amt still pays the Democracy Study Center enough to bring you all here and not have you sitting in Armenia, Moldova, Odessa, Lviv, and Kiev on your computer and just listen my speech there. So some people there, they seem to be still skeptical about this innovation as well. But okay, I'm kind of flying away again. So it's about innovation, technical, organizational innovation. Innovation has to be in a market. So it's not like only an idea. It's not a patent, for example, a development, which is not in the market, is not an innovation yet. That's an invention. So if you develop a new drug which could kill cancer, but it's not in the market, then it's not defined as an innovation. Innovation has to be an invention which is in the market. Okay, so entrepreneurs, they are kind of like restructuring the market. They're using market opportunities. There's some space left in the market, and you think like there I can go and to change kind of the modes of business, and thereby, as Schumpeter says, they will bring forward the technical process and also the process of societies. And there are a certain psychological things which have been attributed to entrepreneurs and some which have not. So that is, people have been interviewing lots of entrepreneurs, like psychologists on the border between psychology and business research. They have been interviewing entrepreneurs, analyzing their decisions, trying to derive hypotheses about, for example, the personality of and motives of entrepreneurs, about the core self-evaluation of the entrepreneurs, and some cognitive properties of successful entrepreneurs, or who will do that. So now what I will do for the next couple of minutes, go through all these things and a little bit give you an intuition why people have been having these hypotheses that people are, for example, it's kind of like, where's the risk taking, yeah? So risk takers, entrepreneurs have to be risk takers. That is kind of like easily understandable, but maybe the other things not so much. So I will just go through them, give you a small definition of these personal attitudes of entrepreneurs, and then later we can discuss, or if you're not interested, not. Yeah. So 3 categories: personality and motives, and the core self-evaluation, which are largely stable over time. So personality and motives make people act differently in the same situation. A risk taker will behave totally differently. If you are on the gambling table, you take risk. That means you put lots of money in some certain thing, and you might take the risk. On somebody who is risk averse will not do that. Or let's think about my example before, with the bank finance entrepreneur you can take a bank loan for starting your business of 200,000 euros, and you might have the chance to become millionaire, but you also can fail, and you will be indebted forever. And the risk takers, they might take this risk, and others not. And such personalities is said to be stable. So many psychologists, they have analyzed also people over their lifetime. Of course, old people, they are more risk averse, young people not, etc., etc. But still, the personalities is said to be more or less stable. So those who are more risk averse in their 20s will likely be also more risk averse in their 40s and 60s than those who are risk takers, etc., etc. Core self-evaluation is the people's sense of control over their external environment. And finally, we have cognitive properties, and they vary over the lifetime and depending on the situation. And it's the perception leading to decisions which are heavily influenced by a person's perception of the situation. Again, I will go now into each and every one by one and make some examples, and later on you have more or less, hopefully, an idea how those entrepreneurs are like. Yeah? So the first one is extraversion, which is defined as a personality trait that incorporates the attributes of sociability, assertiveness, activeness, ambition, initiative, etc., etc., talkativeness. Yeah? So if you're an entrepreneur, you need to persuade other people. You have to have, you guys, you are having your own NGO. How do you finance an NGO? This NGO, for example, is financed partly by donors, like this case, for example, the Auswärtiges Amt. So how do you do that? You need to have networks. You need to be good at persuading people. You need to go out and connect with people. If you are more shy and like to just sit at home and work on your laptop or in your office, then you will not gather the funds. Yeah? And you need to find partners who want to work with you, like you need to find somebody who wants to stand here and connect you to other people. So you have to have the connection to connect to your, you have to be the ability to connect to your partners. You have to find employees if you want to grow your business, etc., etc. So people who are more more extroverted people are more likely to become entrepreneurs, would be the hypothesis, which has been also tested and kind of confirmed. Like as much as we say something has to can say something was confirmed. This is like what many people think. It's more or less intuitive. And the second one is about agreeableness. Agreeableness incorporates the attributes of friendliness, social conformity, compliance, flexibility, tendency to trust, cooperativeness, tendency to forgive, tolerate, soft-heartedness, etc. And this is actually people who are more agreeable, they are less likely to become an entrepreneur, because think again, you have to find new market opportunities. You have to be thinking about like this, how it was always done doesn't work anymore. Yeah, we have to do something different. We're not like having the bookstore like it was 30 years ago, and books are sold in the bookstore, but you can also sell books online. Only if you not agree with the current state, then you can find innovative opportunities. So people who are more agreeable are less likely to become entrepreneurs. The third one is a need for achievement, which is almost like obvious. This trait leads people to undertake activities that involve personal responsibility for outcomes, demand individual efforts, involve risk, and provide clear feedback. So if you want to become an entrepreneur, most people who want to become an entrepreneur have this kind of need for achievement. They want to reach something, and which is measurable. In the end, they can also fail. But people who have less this need for achievement, they will more likely stay as an employee somewhere or work in a state-owned institution or something like that, where it's less measurable what they will reach. Then, and that's what I was already talking about, risk-taking behavior is very highly associated with entrepreneurial abilities and entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs, they will you never know everything if your business might work or not, if your NGO might work or not. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to take the risk. If you're if you're risk averse, you probably will work in a government organization which is very stable over time. Yeah? If you want to, as I said before, if you want to go to the bank and ask them for this 200,000 euros, you are risk to be heavily indebted for the rest of your life. But you're a risk taker, then you will do that. If you're risk averse, you won't do that and just stay where you are. So entrepreneurs, so people who are more risk takers, they are more likely to be entrepreneurs as well. Then, desire for independence. Desire for independence describes an aspect of personality in which people prefer to engage in independent actions rather than actions involving others. As an entrepreneur, of course, you're dependent of lots of others, but on the other side, you kind of like, you don't have a boss. If you go to work in the in a ministry, which is probably like the most stable organization everywhere in the world, you will be dependent on others. You have a boss, and the boss has a boss, and the boss has a boss, etc., etc. Very hierarchical organizations. This is obviously not the case if you start your own business. You have lots of freedom there. You're very independent from at least from your boss. You don't, because you don't have a boss. So people who have a higher desire for independence are more likely to become an entrepreneur as well. So that was his first thing here. And now we will talk about the core self-evaluation, which has actually two items here. The first one is the internal locus of control. Internal locus of control refers to the belief that someone can influence the environment in which he or she is operating. So if you are an entrepreneur, remember, you change the market. If you not only an entrepreneur selling products or processes to the market, but also as an NGO, you want to change what is happening, which you can, I'm an economist, so I'm talking about everything as markets, yeah, I'm sorry for that, but this is also some kind of political market or society. You want to change your society, and you believe in yourself that you can do that, otherwise you won't do it. If you think like nothing ever changes in this country, then go to work in a government organization. But if you really want to reach something, if you want to change a society, a market, whatever, then you have to believe you can do it. So those who are more, who have more the feeling that they can actually change something, that they have a huge internal locus of control, are more likely to become entrepreneurs. And the second one is self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is a belief in one's own ability to perform a given task. Again, obviously, you have to take risks. Yeah, you have to take these 200,000 euros, and you have to make it to bring your product to the market. You have to sell your genius idea to customers, to clients, or as an NGO to such clients there. So if you have the feeling, yes, I can do that, then you are more likely to become an entrepreneur. If you believe in your own abilities and think I can really do it, then you will be an entrepreneur. And those who are less likely or score lower on these items, which psychologists in this field use, they are less likely to become an entrepreneur and more stay in organizations which are more stable. And the third one is the cognitive properties, which is overconfidence. Overconfidence describes the belief in the accuracy of one's judgment, which is too optimistic. Overconfident people usually overstate their own skills and abilities. So 80% of entrepreneurs fail through the first years. That's like, you know, there are different kind of measures, but something like that. Sometimes somebody says 70, somebody says 80%. But everywhere in the world, most businesses, most startups, they fail within the first couple of years. And those who make it, let's say 20% make it, so 20 out of 100 make it, and 19 out of them, they will be like just earning their living after 5 years. And one out of 100 will make 1 million, and one out of a million will be the next Steve Jobs or whoever. So basically, you still, 4 out of 5 people, they're not making it for the next 5 years as entrepreneurs. But still, all of those people you talk to, they say, yeah, but I will make it. Yeah, okay, but statistically, you won't make it. That's how it is. Okay, maybe you have a great education and good connections, etc. Okay, that brings the likelihood that you fail down from 80% to 60%. But still, statistically, you won't make it. You won't be the next Steve Jobs. But many people, they believe in it. So you talk to those people in those entrepreneurial centers, and they say, this idea, my idea is so great. Statistically, there are many, many different things which come in between their way, but they always think like out of 10 entrepreneurs, 9 think they have the greatest idea ever, but actually only 2 out of 10 really will make it over the next couple of years. So the more overconfident you are, the more you you might be likely to become an entrepreneur. Representativeness refers to the willingness to generalize from small samples that do not represent the population. So those researchers here among us, they know you have to have a huge sample to derive any statistically significant things to say. What will an entrepreneur do? He will talk to 5 people, maybe 50, maybe 30 people. But whoever knows anything about statistics knows that the correlation which you can reach with 30 people might be very, very weak, and that the predictive power of your results from 30 interviews is probably quite low. But still, those people who believe, okay, from small numbers, I can generalize. It's also, of course, related to this risk-taking issues. They are more likely to become an entrepreneur. And finally, intuition is a belief that something is true without actually gathering evidence to demonstrate its verity. So, again, you talk to people who started their business, and they tell you, this is what the world needs. Like, everybody will need it. Like, everybody will be interested. Like, who? All companies in this field. To how many did you talk? Yeah, I have this connection and this connection. So, but I know they need it. It's totally clear. So, the more you believe in your own intuition, the more likely you are being an entrepreneur. I sound a little bit negative, which is not meant in that way, yeah? But this is just these psychological things. It doesn't mean if you fail that you have failed in life. Maybe it's good to have tried. Yeah? This is something like which is also discussed in the entrepreneurial literature. For example, in Germany, we were discussing about the stigma of failure. Yeah? While in Germany, you start your business, you fail, and people think you fail in your life. In America, it's more like, okay, you fail, you made some nice experiences, so try again. So it's not necessarily bad that you fail with your business. Maybe you also had 3 very interesting, nice years, and then you say, okay, I have made nice experiences, but this idea didn't work. Yeah. So it's not bad to fail, not necessarily. So those are the hypotheses which have been developed from observing entrepreneurs and which have been tested sometimes. Yeah, for the researchers among us, they know you will use some measures for psychological things which you can, like people will fill out some questions. You might have them play some small games and derive their risk version from these games, etc., etc. So they test them, and then they look at the likelihood of becoming an entrepreneur. Do you see yourself? Do you observe yourself and say, hey, I'm as a NGO, as an entrepreneur? Do you agree with some of these things? Of course, you're not only a person who might be a risk taker, who might be able to be able to talk to people, who might have a desire for independence, might think that you can change the world, but you always have to deal with the external environment as well. And so if you want to start a business, where would you go? Let's say you can choose all over the world. You want to start a business in IT. What would be the place of your choice? Estonia. Huh? You agree with Estonia. What else? Everybody agrees with Estonia. Singapore. Barcelona. Because of the nice sun or because of the business environment? Because of the smart city. Okay. The US, yeah. Would anybody go to India? You would go to India? Let's discuss if it would be a good idea for you to go to India. Let's see, because many people were asking themselves also, where is it good to start a business, and there's actually like people like the World Bank. So there's lots of theory behind. I don't want to like bother you with too much institutional theory. I will tell a little bit about institutions probably next time. But now I want to just like a little bit analyze what kind of business do you want to build, like somewhere in the IT sphere, yeah? So you think, okay, good educated people, the level of wages probably comparably low, maybe the rent is low, something like that. So let's go. You take a plane to India. You find somebody who pays for your ticket, and you got like you persuaded this bank somewhere. Giving you $200,000, so you have $200,000 in your pocket, and in your pocket, and you arrive in Mumbai. Yeah. So let's think and let's compare it also with some other countries. Let's compare with Brasilia, Russia, China, and the United States. Let's think about ease of doing business, cost of a startup. So you want to start a business, so you have to register. So you have to go to the office, the government office, and you have to register your business. So how much will it be in the United States? This is it's compared to the per capita income. So how much will it be in the United States? 1.4% of your annual income. That seems to be quite feasible to start a business on that. Russia is also quite nice, so probably also you're fluent in Russian, so that would also be, from in this perspective, to start your business in Moscow would also be some good thing. Beijing, I don't know, do you speak Chinese? No? Okay, but Beijing is also like, you have pay only 3.5% of your annual income in China to start a business, somebody gives you this document to start a business. But in India is more or less half of your annual income to start this business. Yeah? So from this perspective, it's already very, very difficult to start a business in India, because you have to pay lots of things. I don't know, probably it includes all the bribes which you have to pay to the guys to really welcome you in their government office there. So if you got through this thing, so you bribed your way to get this permission to start your business in the IT sphere, then you want to have a building. You want to build a building for your company. Yeah? What do you have to do? You have to have a construction permit. Yeah? So how does it work in the United States? So you have your land is bought by it. You have some nice area in the center of Mumbai, and you want to build a house there for all your nice cheap Indian labor. And then you find out that you have to pay 1,631% of your annual income. So that means you have to work 16 years in India in order to be able to pay for that. Yeah, but you still have your 200,000 euros in your pocket. The Indian average income is not so high. So basically you're still confident, because you're an entrepreneur, so you're overconfident. Huh? And you sign the contract for building a business. And then those guys, they don't really build your house, so you want to go to the court and enforce this contract. But the court takes 1,400 days to negotiate your case, which is 5 years. In the United States, it would be like 1 year. In Russia, even slower, even faster, 280 days only. China, a little bit more than a year. Brazil, 2 years. India, 5 years. So now we are in 2024, and you finally got your right to sue this company, if that's possible. But then you finally have your house now in 2024, and you invited lots of cheap labor. For some reason, you found some more money somewhere else, and then somebody comes and knocks to your door and say, hey, you have to pay your taxes now. And how many times will this happen? 33 times a year in India. That is like on average almost 3 times a month. So on the 1st, on the 10th, on the whatever, 20th, and every month the tax collector comes and like, sorry, I have to pay, you have to pay this tax, you have to pay this tax, land tax, tax for your employees, etc., etc. 33 times a year. In China, 7 times a year. In Russia, 9 times. Brazil, 9 times. And the United States doesn't perform very well here. It's 11 times, so once a month in the States, 3 times a month in India, and every 2 months only in China. So basically now you think like, okay, this is too much. I cannot, like, every month I have to talk to this tax guy. I want to run away, and basically your 200,000 euros or dollars which you got are gone, and the 200,000 from your friends and family also. So you kind of like, you want to be insolvent, yeah? So you're not bankrupt basically. And again, you go to the court and file for bankruptcy, but this takes another 7 years. So let's say 5 years plus, let's say your business was running 1 year, 2025, 2032, you're done with this process. So these are some things which, do we have more? No. So these are some things which we as economists would say, like, it's institutions, which of course also influence entrepreneurship in different kind of countries. This is of course something where you can also go with your project. There are much more such statistics. This must be, what is it, World Bank? Yeah, it's World Bank. So when you go to the World Bank webpage, you will definitely find something for Moldova, you will find something for Ukraine, you will find something for the other countries which we have, and not only these statistics, but many others with regard to entrepreneurship, with regard to the institutions related to entrepreneurship. And that's why you can start by collecting data about the institutions of a country to understand how the environment is friendly to entrepreneurship or not. Okay, so now we have a couple of minutes left. Yes. So now, any issues which we should tackle, anything where we should come back to, which I was talking today, or anybody wants to share some ideas?
Do you have such statistic on Ukraine?
The World Bank has it. It's easily accessible. Just Google World Bank, you will find everything. Oh. And many more statistics. You have lots of questions on many things, and you will find nice data on that, which of course also always can you can use also in the political discussion. Like, look, it's probably always easy when you say, look, the Russians they need 2 years, maybe we need 3. Then it's something like push your government in that field. Huh? Ukraine is actually, I don't have these statistics, but in many fields, Ukraine, like the ease of doing business index, Ukraine is actually doing very well. This one, ease of doing business. There's like a full index of everything. And Ukraine, I was writing our report with regard to trade recently. Ukraine jumped from, I don't know, 120 something in 2013 to something in the 60s, 70s in the world in 2018. So there's actually developing very fast. With regard to trade, developing very fast, like especially last year. There's about measures which you can, how long does it take to get through the border to export to the European Union, yeah? Or how long does it take to, so it's like clear, measurable things which have been improving through the last year. So now Ukraine is in trade not so well like in the overall doing business, but in many fields it's actually increasing. So it's good signs, but it takes longer to be translated into GDP growth. Any other questions? No. So we still have our wish list, which I will tackle these things here. Yeah. So next time I will a little bit start with recapitulate a little bit, then talk about migration. We will have your ideas and your presentations. So 10 minutes each is okay. Yeah. And then we will also work a little bit on entrepreneurship in the different countries. Yeah, so that might be then for the presentation in January. I will tackle maybe next time or the time after how to connect, because I understood from different ways. You told me like this would be interesting knowledge between universities and businesses, how to connect them. Maybe it will be January, maybe it will be December. What else can I, so these things I will talk about certainly next time. What else is interesting for you? Just give me some ideas. What can I, anything in the political, economic sphere, I don't know everything, but any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Does that person, if there is any social enterprises that gives their income to charity, for example, it is, for example, in Ukraine it's 3% of income without taxes, additional taxes for charity.
There's some tax, you mean in Germany how it is done. I write it down. There's some tax schemes, but I have to look it up. Some schemes that you, if you give your income to, actually some of the family businesses which I know, in the long run, sometimes they donate their money to such things so that they give all their income to charity. But I have to write it down and look it up. So how can I put this?
Are they considered to be a social enterprises, or these are charity activities? As I know, it's just different activities, social entrepreneurship and charity.
Yes, although it has some problems to maybe in media, or it's famous in German to donate. And do you have any statistics for this donation in these enterprises?
Statistics I have to look up.
But is it popular?
Yes, I know some cases that where companies, let's say the company owner is gets old and will die soon, and they put the company into such an organization, which is then the fund is managed. Like, I don't know, the company owner leaves 100 million euros. I know one case in Mannheim. He left 100 million euros, and now it's kind of a social enterprise. I don't know the specific word for that. It's a kind of a social enterprise which puts all their earnings in some projects in Mannheim related to, I don't know, from poor children to entrepreneurship promotion, everything. So they have a board, this money is managed, and yeah, so it's possible. I don't know the figures though.
Legislation, special legislation is functioning in Germany, or?
Yes, we have special legislation for them. You have also, like, if you give your money to some charity, you can somehow you can deduct it from your tax. So if you, for me not, because I'm working in Ukraine, but if when I was working in Germany, and I give charities to some whatever, so I give money to the Democracy Studies Center. They have to write like this guy who gave 1,000 euros, and I can deduct it from my taxable income. That makes, so I'm not getting everything back, but parts of, I don't need to pay tax for that, somehow like that. So, but I will look up some statistics and try to make more sense of that. Anything else? Yes?
I also have a question about it, like a negative percent rate, or how to call it properly, that it's now in banks of Europe. That if you have a deposit, you don't have income, but like in opposite. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I don't know how to call it properly, but my question is...
negative interest, yeah.
Yes, negative interest rate. Yeah. So what does it mean for the economy of Europe and Germany in particular? Like, is it a good or bad thing? And it's just interesting because I even didn't know before that it can be so phenomenal. So how it is?
I mean, it's two levels. On the one thing is the central bank, the European Central Bank, gives, so like for the banks, commercial banks, have to pay negative interest for the money which they store. So they should, like, they want to, the European Central Bank want the banks to make the money go to the market for investment. So theoretically, economically, it's a good thing. Yeah? With regard to, I mean, it's not a good thing that we are in such a situation that the European Central Bank has to do it. It's like kind of, it's not sound monetary policy anymore, because they were pushing money into the market for many, many years, very cheap money, so that somebody will invest, which is actually needed for Southern Europe, not so much for Germany. For Germany, it doesn't make sense, but it's a difficult discussion. On a customer base, like you and me putting money into the bank, mostly it's not done directly, but you will pay some fee for your account. So you have account, you have to pay, I don't know, 10 euros every month as a fee, 5 euros, whatever. So it's not kind of like negative negative interest, but it's sold to the population another way, because you will create a huge bank run if you will really have negative interest. But this, like, to pay something for your account is a small, it's a very difficult discussion. It's not good that we have this situation, but in this situation, the European Central Bank doesn't have any choice.
But can private banks remain profitable, or the central bank should reimburse something for them?
No, they are profitable, yes. I mean, they still earn money, although it's very small money. When they lend out money, the banks, they still lend to the companies. That's actually what you want to have. They shouldn't store their money on the account, but they should take this money to give it to the companies. And like the European Central Bank wants to push the banks to lend this money to companies, so that companies will invest into new facilities, into research and development, so that the economy is growing again. Yeah.
Thank you. I understand.
I have two questions.
Yes.
One question is about IPO. I always thought and read a lot of things that it's positive. I mean, it's in terms of reputation for the company, it could be some objective to be IPO listed. But a month ago, I read an article about new startup in Poland. It's called like Flexibus or something like that. And they are telling that for them, IPO is just a tool to invest, to get money from the market. And but they would like to keep their company in their family or in their team. So that's why they are not thinking, and for them it's not so important. What is your?
This is this thing with like bank finance, publicly financed, with lots of those especially small companies, they don't want to IPO, they want to be private companies. They don't want to be on the stock market, because when you're on the stock market, you have to disclose many things. And especially these mid-sized companies in Germany, they say we are perfectly fine if we're not growing much. Like IPO is something like you raise money to finance growth. But many of them, I also met many companies who say, why should we grow? We are perfectly happy as we are. We have 10 employees. We all have good wages. Why should we grow? And this is also something in Germany. I have a friend who actually started his business 4 years ago with some support from the government, etc. And at that time, he was over self-confident. He said, yes, we will grow very much. And now he says, like, you know, we are in business for 5 years. We all have nice wages. We're not like millionaires, but we're happy. We're independent. And I don't think that he wants to have an IPO. So that's often the case for SMEs in Germany. Then they're very, very stable. But they're not risk takers, but they are their own bosses.
About liberalism. So, what is your attitude to have a good business environment in the country? What should be more? More liberalism or more regulated, and you know how this policy towards creating business environment, governmental policy should look like?
I think it's not about like either being liberal or having lots of regulations, but it's about having good regulations, kind of. Like there's a high correlation between actually the government, like how rich a country is and how big the government spending is. Like all the rich countries in the world, they have actually high proportions of the GDP spending from the government. Like there's of course differences between Sweden, which is spending 60%, and Germany, which is spending 45%, and the United States maybe 30%. But the government is having so many things to do, like from infrastructure to education, etc. And regulations that there might be, some countries are over-regulated, but you need good regulations to steer the market. So it's not like more or less, but it's better or worse regulations. Yeah.